What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with the one, the only Dilly Vanilli. We are back for another Monday Night Football recap. Today, we had the greatest experience of watching the greatest of quarterbacks, Eli Manning. Yay!
Yeah. Cheers.
New York Giants took on the Atlanta Falcons here in week number 7. We'll recap the action for you. We'll give you our thoughts. But before we do that, hit us up in the comment section, the live comments, the comments after the video. If you couldn't make it live, let us know what you guys thought of the game, who was good, who was bad, who was up, who was down. Also, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more NFL and bottom line view. If you guys are new to the channel, we do live reactions, recaps like this for Monday night, Thursday night, and Sunday night football. We also do topic videos talking about the NFL, weekly picks, and fantasy football content. So subscribe to the channel. Also, follow us on social media. We're just starting up an Instagram, so we're trying to plug that hard. Go to Instagram, search Bottom Line View. You will find it, or The Bottom Line View. Either way, you'll find it. You can also find it in the description below, as well as the Twitter, Bottom Line View, if you're not already following us there. All right, so the plugs are out of the way. The main storyline of this game, of course, Dilly Vanilli, is not every time that a team plays the Giants, it's not going to be the other team. As I said before the last recap I did, it's not going to be the team that beat the Giants, because honestly, if you beat the Giants in 2018, it's not a real feat. So, and the reason why it's not a real feat, Dylan, is because Eli Manning is the New York Giants quarterback. And there is a steady race right now going for who is the worst quarterback in the NFL, Blake Bortles or Eli Manning. And I've swayed to the Eli Manning side of things. I think it might be Eli Manning. And we see today that more things that I've been saying, okay? Dilly, you said this stat. I said basically during the third quarter, the Giants only have 6 points. Okay.
Yep.
Dylan, how many points was the Atlanta Falcons defense giving up coming into this game?
Per game, they've been averaging 32 points given up. 32. And they had 6 coming into the fourth quarter.
6 coming into the fourth quarter. 1 touchdown was semi-garbage time. It was as close to garbage time as you can get. And he also messed the game up at the end of the game, which we'll get into. And he also missed multiple throws for his team to win this game. So there were just so many issues with Eli. We'll have a whole conversation about this man in just a little bit, so stay tuned for that. But overall, Dylan, what did you think of this game from an entertainment standpoint? And let's try and focus right now on the Atlanta Falcons and the positives. So, okay. Dylan?
All right, well, at least it was a more competitive game than last night's game. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more of that game further on as we get to Eli Manning. But in terms of the Falcons and what they did, Matt Ryan was put up in a big situation. They're down 2-4 in their record. They had to get this victory at home. It was set up for, they're in the bottom of the NFC South, and that division continues to be very difficult with the Panthers and the Saints pulling out on top. So they needed this victory. Their defense, which has had multiple injuries over the course of the season, did step up tonight, made some really big plays, got some huge sacks on Eli Manning, and that was the number one goal, was to get pressure. Their secondary did not do a very good job. They gave a lot of receiving yards to Odell Beckham and Shepard specifically, but they were able to get enough pressure to where, maybe it was a bend, don't break tonight for the Falcons. And considering how bad that they have been throughout the course of the early season, this was a good step in the right direction. They would have some plays where, okay, we're going to give up this first down. This wasn't a good play, but if you get a sack on second down, you force them on a 3rd and 14, chances are the Giants aren't going to make it. So your job has been accomplished as a defensive unit. So overall, they stepped up. Julio Jones had another really good game. Calvin Ridley is the 3rd down machine. He knows how to get a 3rd down conversion when necessary. He converted all 4 that he had catches on tonight. So that was a positive. And overall, this Falcons team looks like that they can do something. it just looks like they're one or two steps, not able to winning in the clutch. And tonight they were able to do so. So hats off to them. And they even got a 56-yard field goal to help them out. Surprisingly, don't know how. But, yeah, good things to see. Just a little bit of improvement in considering how bad their defensive ranks were coming into this week, which will be addressed when we talk about Eli. Just overall more positive than negative. You're on mute. Buddy.
I was on a different screen. Sorry. So, yeah, I agreed with a lot of your points. Overall, I think the defense definitely stepped up despite the poor play from the quarterback on the opposite side. And I agreed with you with the offense. I thought the offense was overall solid. I don't think it was the best we've seen it play this year, but it certainly dominated the time of possession when they needed to do so. And they were able to get the necessary points and get the necessary yardage to basically put them in a good position to win. Because, of course, when you're dealing with Atlanta, the offense can be very successful, but there's two things about Atlanta. We know that they're not very good in the red zone, so often their offensive success doesn't show up in the points, which is a big – when they lose games, you often see that they struggled in the red zone and they didn't succeed in that area. And the second thing is their defense is on the field so much because it's not a very good defense and gives up a ton of yards that it's hard for their offense to put up a lot of points. So, overall, I thought that they were pretty good and they did what they had to do to win the game. So the big plays in this game really came from Atlanta mostly. 47-yard touchdown to some guy named Marvin Hall, Dilly Vanilli. I thought D'Angelo Hall came back and caught this touchdown.
Hey, you got to throw in some different players. It gets them off coverage and boom, 50-yard touchdown right there.
Tevin Coleman got a 30-yard touchdown, and that was pretty much the big plays. Also, a very big play was, how do you pronounce the kicker's name, bro? I'm sorry.
I got to look it up. I got to spell it. It's a very long name.
56-yard field goal.
56. That was a huge play.
Huge because if the Giants went down on that garbage time drive and basically would have tied the game if they had not got that field goal. Also, I think it was a big thing for them offensively that they were able to chew some clock late in that fourth quarter, get into field goal range at the very least, and at least try and get that field goal. So that was big for their offense. I think early on with their defense, the big thing you brought up, I thought, was the pressure. They got 4 sacks. And really their defense has struggled in the pass rush department. Now, some of that could be the Giants defensive line or offensive line, and really their pass protection. A lot of that can be Eli and his inability to escape pressure, but also you just got to give credit to Atlanta for putting pressure on the quarterback. And a lot of the big plays, they forced third and longs, like you said, and put them in bad positions. Some of the stars of the game, Matt Ryan, 31 for 39, 379, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, was sacked 3 times. The Giants did get quite a bit of pressure early in the game, which really stagnated the Falcons' offense. He did have 115.7 passer rating, though. Tevin Coleman was okay. I don't think Tevin Coleman has really set the world on fire as much as we would have liked since Devontae Freeman's been injured. We haven't really seen him kind of break out. This game, 11 carries, 50 yards. He did have 2 catches for 32. He did have that touchdown. Ito Smith was in a solid role here, but did not really produce. Only 2.3 yards per carry, 16 yards in general. Julio's going to have his game, 9 catches on 12 targets, 104 yards. Of course, Marvin Hall was in there. Austin Hooper had a few plays. Calvin Ridley on third down. Not a lot of Mohamed Sanu, was banged up coming in this game. 2 catches, 21. And for their defense, Grady Jarrett was the big player. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 2 quarterback hits, 6 tackles. Devondre Campbell had 2 quarterback hits as well as a sack. And also, Tack McKinley had a very impressive sack as well, where he basically bowled over Nate Solder into the quarterback. Secondary-wise, did not really love the performance from Desmond Trufant or really any of their corners for the most part. Again, Vic Beasley remains extremely quiet, and I think he's just going to be gone after this season. Overall, Falcons defense, not the greatest unit, but they at least only gave up 20 points in this game. Now, anything else we should really say about the Falcons before moving on to what is the New York Giants right now?
I like you said, I like what the defensive front brought here. I was impressed by that. Like you said, I'm not a big fan of what the secondary gave us tonight, but overall, the pressure was there, and we're going to talk about the offensive line for the Giants in a minute, but you have to make those plays. It takes two to tango. You got to put in a little bit of pressure in order to get to Eli Manning, because Eli Manning, at least one point in this game, did go for a rush of 8 yards, so maybe we could see more of that if he wants to try a little bit. But you got to do what you got to do, so give credit to them, and considering all the third stringers they've got in there right now, it was a good effort. That's what I will say before we go to the Giants.
Bro, the biggest excuse I see for Eli Manning is their offensive line. Okay, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
For Eli Manning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where do you think Eli Manning ranks in terms of quarterback hits on him?
Like this season?
Yeah.
He's got to be quite high. Well, actually, no, I'm thinking about it. He had a lot tonight, but I would say he's probably maybe the middle of the pack.
Yeah. He ranks, They rank 16th.
Wow, right in the middle. I'll take that. Wow. So it's not necessarily their offensive line. That's the issue.
Well,
not their number. It's not
my biggest issue, Dylan, is that the Giants fans are so blind. And I know a lot of Giants fans. They're so blind. I don't know how to explain it. They just can't see what we're seeing.
But it's not difficult to see it.
Bro, I try to explain to them that Eli sucks, and they come back with the offensive line, every excuse in the book. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything. The last person they'll blame is Eli Manning. That's what's so frustrating to me, Dylan. Like, it's not that Eli sucks, because you don't even see me get this angry about Blake Bortles, and he's garbage. But with Eli Manning, it's because they're fans. They don't accept that he sucks. At least with Bortles, everybody knows he sucks, but they just go along with it. With Eli, they think he's actually good. They think it's not his fault. But then they come back with the offensive line, and then I try to explain that the Houston Texans have given up 20 more quarterback hits than them. And Deshaun Watson has been hit 20 plus more times than Eli Manning. And he has a winning record. And he has no running game.
That's true.
And he has no tight end.
But here's the thing, right? We saw multiple occasions. This wasn't even Eli's worst game. You know what? Think about that.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say
I'm just making this out as a bigger comparison. This wasn't his worst game. He almost threw for 400 yards. But remember when we were talking on picks Wednesday?
Bro, how many of those yards were in the fourth quarter?
How many of them were on the easiest of Odell routes where he was wide open for 50 yards?
How many of those routes did he miss? I was sitting there in the second quarter or third quarter or something like that, and I'm looking at Odell's stats, and I'm like, 5 catches for 120 yards or whatever it was. And I'm like, he should have 200 yards.
Yeah, well, there's two big examples. That one route where they're at the 15-yard line, they're in the red zone. Okay, the red zone opportunities were god awful. I just mixed
awful. Did you just make a word up?
They were awful today. Okay, not awful like GOFFUL. He's been good. No, god awful. And this one play where OBJ's one-on-one slant route, you're going to get him. You will get this touchdown. And instead, he throws to Evan Ingram, and it's a 3-yard completion. Why? You're going to have Odell open. And then it's 2nd and goal in the red zone. You have a chance to get him. He goes to the outside. He's open, and he overthrows him. Good quarterbacks might miss that play every once in a while. I swear Eli missed Odell 3 or 4 times, maybe even more. In easy routes.
It seemed like he was open on every play. I'm not just saying that because I like Odell. Like, honestly, I think he was open on like 90% of his routes in this game.
The Falcons secondary had no answer for him. They didn't even have an answer for Shepard.
Yeah, he had like 170 yards, and that Eli finally uncorked it.
Like, he went deep. Like, okay, hold on. Let me look at these
stats real quick. Because he's losing by 14. Why does it take until you're losing by 14 to throw a ball past 10 yards?
Shepard had 5 catches for 167 yards, and Beckham had 8 catches for 143 yards. Holy shit. And you still lost. That touchdown at the end was garbage. Hold on. And bad decision-making. How are you a quarterback 15 years into the league and you realize you're at the 2-yard line with a minute left and you miss the first QB snack and say, let's fuck off, let's fuck around and waste more time off the clock. And then you go for it again and miss it. And then it takes an Odell catch that had to tiptoe with 5 seconds left. That was the epitome of Andrew Luck garbage. And you get the touchdown. Like, what a waste. And then your offense says, well, we don't have enough time to get you an onside kick. Thanks a lot. So nothing gets accomplished from this. Again, a defense is known to be like, all right, we'll take the yards if we don't give up touchdowns. And as an offense, you're pissed when you don't score touchdowns. You don't.
Can I just say about the onside kick? I think the only reason they kicked it a little bit deeper was because they realized if they got the onside kick, they would have to kick a field goal right away. So they wouldn't have been able to kick a field goal from like the 40-yard line. When if they would have recovered it at like the 35, they might have had a chance to kick a field goal. You know what I mean?
Well, at that point, why wouldn't you just go for the win? I mean, you're not going to have like.
No, they onside kicked it, but it was just deeper.
Well, it was deep. It was like a deeper.
Because they needed to get it deeper to get the ball so that they could kick a field goal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it didn't seem like they gave an effort. That kick just seemed like it was a garbage kick anyway.
Maybe it was a bad kick, but I understand why they kicked it there, is what I'm saying.
I would think if you were just going to kick one straight up for 10 yards, I mean, it's going to be a miracle anyways if you win this game.
But they probably would have had no time to kick a field. Like, it would have been like 1 second, and you would have been like.
Then I would just go for a
Hail Mary?
Yeah, whatever. Well, I don't know if Eli can throw that far. But, lateral game and all this stuff, whatever it's got to take. Because honestly,
probably get Odell to throw it to himself.
He threw a 56-yarder. We can do it. But honestly, I was watching this game and I'm like, the Giants don't deserve to win this game, right? There was never one point where I'm like, this team has the leadership and the chemistry and the coaching to win. It never felt like that. At least with the Falcons, I'm like, okay, they're just missing players. They're missing some kind of plays down the field that can be fixed up. We know how bad their offensive coordinator situation is right now, where it's been struggling to get plays, even though they've been scoring a lot this season. They're just not able to finish it off. Here, I was never questioning who should have won this game. It was always the Falcons. And by the way, here's an amazing.
I had no doubt. The game was 6-3. I had no doubt.
Here's a stat that ESPN brought up here, or the Monday Night Football cast. The Giants have been trailing 286 out of the 420 possible minutes this season. That's 69% of football.
They don't start the game well because Eli gets scared when people blitz him. And then you see that he gets his stats in the second half when people stop blitzing and play conservative.
And and the biggest thing is they can't get Saquon because they're always behind. He had 14 rushes. Yeah. Again, we've been asking him, can we get more touches? He had 14 rushes and 5 catches. The Falcons did a very good job of stopping Saquon. If there's one thing we should give credit is how they were able to be effective with it. And the Giants didn't want to just, here we go, here's the run game. But at the end of the day, you have to make smart plays. This defense is not good. On a typical Sunday afternoon or a typical week-to-week basis through the first 6 weeks, they're not very good. They're 20th in yards given up this season, 29 in yards given up per game with 417, which you accomplished that because basically Eli did that by himself. But they're 31st in the league in points per game. coming into this week. 31st. And you lost. And honestly should have lost by 10 if a garbage touchdown doesn't happen. It's pathetic. I mean, when are they going to understand that Eli is not the answer? When? They're dumb.
And this is the other excuse I hear from Giants fans and even people on Twitter is that they can't go to somebody else because they don't have a backup. Well, the reason you don't have a backup is because you need to legitimize the reason why you're starting Eli. So you decided not to trade for Teddy, not to draft a quarterback or whatever, or sign somebody.
Kyle Alou is not a bad quarterback. Like, give him the opportunity. You know you're not going to win. You're 1-6. Anything is a better solution than what you're doing right now. You give a quarterback an opportunity to progress and give him football time. I know you're throwing him out there in a very bad situation, but you have the talent around him to at least give him an opportunity. And if he wins, you see, holy shit, we got a guy that's better than Eli or somebody that can do it at this point of his career. And if you don't have that guy, you wait till you got to just give him the opportunities, get through the season, and get that number 1 draft pick to draft a fucking quarterback. It's not difficult.
And again, I said this once, I'll say it again. I don't even mind that the Giants didn't pick a quarterback this year in the first round because you had an opportunity to pick Saquon Barkley. But at least pick somebody else up to at least motivate Eli, push him, and then if he's a dumpster fire, be able to replace him when it looks this bad because you're just looking like a bunch of idiots in the front office. Now, the last point I have about Eli, because I think we should move on, is just this is the one thing that I think is just really bad. And I haven't seen this. I've seen it a little bit this year, but I feel like it hasn't really been brought up. I think we talk about the lack of arm strength, just the inability to get the ball there very, very effectively. He's scared of the rush, the ability not to move around in the pocket. But one big thing, you're a veteran quarterback. You're a quarterback that's been in this game for a long time. You studied the game. You are considered a guy that's seen every defense. When Peyton Manning, his brother, was at his absolute worst in 2015, and I'm not comparing Peyton Manning and Eli Manning in terms of players during their prime, but just follow me here. Peyton Manning was bad. Peyton Manning had no arm strength. He couldn't get the ball there. But the one thing Peyton Manning could do was Peyton Manning could still put the team in the proper play. He was really good in situational football, and he never really made a stupid mistake that wasn't caused by his physical ability, where he thought he could make a throw and he couldn't, or he just stupid like just his arm wasn't there when he tried to make a play. The thing about Eli is he still makes rookie mistakes. Like at the end of the game, we brought up how he shouldn't have quarterback sneaked it twice. And for anyone to blame Pat Shurmur there is stupid. That's not on Pat Shurmur. Eli Manning is in his no-huddle offense. He needs to score a touchdown, but he needs to recognize anybody that knows football, followed football, watched football, or even played Madden knows how to go through that situation in their head. You can't quarterback sneak it twice, even once. As soon as you get to the 1 yard line, you need to throw the ball up like Jason Witten said, rather a fade. I personally don't love the fade. I guess you have Odell, so you can do it. I'd consider a slant, something quick where you can get it in the end zone. It's rather incomplete, or it hits the ground and it hits the ground, or it's a touchdown. So you have those two options. You don't quarterback sneak it, and you especially don't quarterback sneak it and then quarterback sneak it again. Yeah. Could you imagine Peyton Manning in 2015 doing that, or Tom Brady now, or Drew Brees now? Like, never. And then the other thing, Dylan, the other thing is he doesn't recognize blitzes at all.
No.
He usually a veteran quarterback like Brady, you'll see Brady on game day. Just watch Brady. He's like, oh, 52's a mic, or like, oh, watch this guy. Even Gronk stand up, like something like he'll just tell these guys like, okay, the blitz coming from the right, blitz coming from the left, watch the A gap, just basic things to protect. When you're a veteran quarterback, it's not all on the offensive line. As a quarterback, you need to help your offensive line play better. And I just don't understand how this guy is this age. He can't help his offensive line. He doesn't recognize blitzes. He's terrible in 2-minute situations. I just don't get it. He can't make the throws. It's not like he's a wizard out there where it doesn't even matter if he can throw or not, and he just completes 5-yard dump-offs all the way down the field. He can't throw, and he can't think it. He's done.
But I got 2 things to say about that. First off, there was one point I'm trying to think of. Okay, now this is the point. Last night I saw the game between Kansas City and Cincinnati. Patrick Mahomes, who is 15 years younger than this guy, at least. I don't know the exact math on that. He looks 8 million times better than Eli Manning. Not just in terms of arm strength, because we damn sure know who gets that honor. In decision making. There was a play on first or second and goal. The Chiefs had it. Patrick Mahomes fumbles the ball when he was supposed to go to the right. That's the play option. That's the design play. He fumbles it. He recognizes the defense is going to sniff me out. There's no way I'm getting a gain on this. So he goes to the left, throws a dart to Tyreek Hill for a touchdown. No way is Eli Manning making that. Eli Manning's going to take the sack. That's the kind of play he's going to take. So a rookie is making better decisions than him. And second, Eli is playing worse than his counterparts that are in the exact same age group. Think about all the quarterbacks.
Far worse.
Far worse. Phillip Rivers is playing great.
He's an MVP right now. He's in the conversation.
He's in the conversation. He's top 5. I would say top 5, top 6, whatever you want to say. He's very, very good this year. He has a lot of again, same talent-wise in terms of the offense. You got a lot of great players there. Ben Roethlisberger, sometimes
I would say even a little less.
Yeah. I mean, you got Ben Roethlisberger, who makes some bad decisions, but he's putting his team in positions to win, and they win football games. So it's not like he's...
And they've been winning because of him, too.
Yeah. He's got to be the leader on there because now there's a whole bunch of confusion and whatnot. Drew Brees, he was drafted a year after Eli. He's making a great season. Brady, who was 2 years before Eli, 3 years before Eli, whatever it was, still playing great football, still making the right decisions. This guy, no matter what situation, cannot win you football games in 2018. I'm sorry to say that. And Kev says that Shermer is defending Eli. Of course he is, because he has to protect his own ass.
Oh, this is the other point. Okay, the reason why, this is what I've heard. I'm not going to say that I'm a Adam Schefter or anything. Okay, so this is what I've heard from NFL sources from reading a lot of tweets and from listening to podcasts and so on. The wide consensus across the NFL is that the reason why Pat Shurmur was able to get the Giants job over a guy like Matt Patricia or Josh McDaniels or somebody like that was because those guys didn't want the job because they realized that they had to have Eli as their quarterback. The owners of the Giants said that if you're the head coach, you need to play Eli. It's not Pat Shurmur who wants Eli as his quarterback.
No.
He just wanted to be a head coach for a talented team, but he didn't realize, I guess. Maybe he realized that Eli sucks and he'll be able to move on quickly, but he's just having to go through this. And he might not even get a chance in his second year without Eli. But the owners of the Giants are the reason why Eli is still the quarterback of the team. And
we saw it on the sidelines earlier. He threw a play to I think it was the tight end on a 4th and goal situation. They didn't make it. It was that turnover on downs play. And you can see on Pat Shurmur on the sidelines, what? Throw it to Odell. It's not difficult. His own coach is calling him out on the sideline during the game, which is different than
this is twice now in 2 different games. We've seen that.
Yeah. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Honestly, I don't know who's worse, Eli or Blake. Blake got benched for Cody Kessler.
You know what the thing about the Jags is? The Jags tried to find the only quarterback worse than Blake Bortles to have as their backup, Cody Kessler.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the only quarterback that might be worse is Eli. He was on a different team starting.
Hold on, Cody didn't even have he came in that first drive and got him a touchdown.
He might be better than Blake. Who knows? But OBJ had a comment after the game. He says, "Times like these is what tests your character. we have to keep fighting and keep digging. I'll give a couple of shout outs to some of the Giants players that played well. Odell was one of them. I thought he had one of his better games of the season. Just some of the routes he was able to make, get separation, catch the ball on the sidelines was impressive. He had a long of 51, one deep play. Sterling Shepard was really good, as we brought up, had one deep play near the end of the game. But both of those players were really open the whole game. They played really well. I would say defensively, their D-line was pretty good overall. Landon Collins, just every game I watch him, he just makes super impressive tackles.
You know who was in this
sorry?
game? I said, you know who was disappointing? Janoris Jenkins. He did not have
he was bad. He was bad. And another guy that was really bad was Nate Solder.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not even a fan. Will Hernandez had some really just costly give-ups for a sack. But I guess I should talk more positive. No, I like you said, those two.
Those were the main guys.
Yeah. Sterling, Odell, they got open. They made big plays. They kept them in this game basically with their run after the catch.
And I also really I liked him during the draft process. Lorenzo Carter, I think, brings some athleticism to the defense. Mm-hmm. He usually pops out whenever I watch them.
Lorenzo Carter. I like him. Snacks Harrison, he had a good game as well. Yeah. So that's basically all I can say. I mean, not a whole lot of positives, but
yeah, I think we're done on the recap, but we can get to some of the comments for the recap, and then we're going to go into a Amari Cooper talk, and then we'll get into a little bit of a Patrick Peterson talk.
All righty, let's go to those comments. Everybody should put them in right now, because
if you have any questions regarding Amari Cooper and Patrick Peterson, also leave those in the comment section. But we're going to finish this recap, and we're going to continue on, but it will be in a separate conversation about Amari and Patrick Peterson.
Yep. All right, everybody's in the chat here. We got Robot, Ultra, Ghost, everybody in there. First question, of course, did you hear about Roman Reigns? Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Yes, we did hear about him. Prayers for him. He's a good guy. No matter what do you think about him? He's a strong guy. And, it sucks. Like F cancer. I'm sorry. We got to be more conservative here on the channel. F cancer, it sucks. So get better. I hope he gets better.
Yeah, I tweeted out, if you guys don't follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. Cheap plug. But seriously, Roman Reigns, whatever you think of his TV persona, that's not really who he is in person. And, he's always a guy that I've thought really has carried forward the tradition of pro wrestling and the way that wrestlers act, especially at the top and champions and that. And I think he's really kind of kept that in wrestling. And he's been one of those guys that I've really respected, because he is, really one of the newer guys that I think are a lot like the guys that I used to like when I was younger, and back in the day. And I think I like him as a wrestler. I've never been one to really hate on him much. And I've always supported him, and just hopefully as a person, he can get back. Hashtag pray for Roman. Hopefully he gets better, but that is pretty sad. He's just a really strong dude and tough guy.
Yep. Yes, sir. Can't agree more. Robot says Eli went full-blown idiot on those sneaks. Yes. FBI, full-blown idiot. That is his new moniker. Rob with the question about Amari Cooper again. We'll get to that in just a minute. I'll have a lot to say about that.
Just skip those.
Yeah, we'll have those. Again, put those down there, and we'll answer them a little bit later. The Robot says, Bortles has been extreme garbage right now. Have you watched him as of late? Eli is garbage, though. So he's saying Blake is worse. Yeah, that's basically.
I think he actually says that and then goes back later and says that Eli's worse. I don't know. We'll see it, I think.
I'll keep scrolling. Isaiah's not very happy with what you had to say about the Falcons, my dude. So are you going to say that Isaiah Spivey here? Says, are you going to say their whole defense is injured, or no? I swear, dude acts like this is our first team playing on D.
No,
Like, he's saying that
their defense is injured, but yeah, a lot of other teams are injured too. I still got to evaluate the performance of people who are playing on the team. I can't just say every single time they play, the Falcons are hurt, but their defense, what do you want me to say? Their defense played well for all the injuries they had?
So you got to play the game.
What do you want me to say?
He's also talking about they're number 1 in the red zone this year.
And then I also have comments like from Ultra who say they still can make the playoffs. Like, where do you want me to go? Do you want me to say they're not going to make the playoffs because they have all these injured players? Or would you just like me to say they're not going to make the playoffs? Or would you like me to say they're going to make the playoffs even without these injured players? Like, I'm confused. I'm just going to say what comes to my mind. I just don't want to say every single time. I don't want to have to say the Falcons are injured because other teams are as well. It's not just them. I know they have a lot of injuries, key injuries, but come on.
John from Hot Take Hockey. The back-to-back QB sneaks were embarrassing and a waste of time management. A joke. Yes, indeed.
Yep.
Pretty much.
And the 2-point conversion was stupid. We didn't talk about that, but it was dumb. Self-explanatory.
Pretty dumb. He tried to explain it in the second. I watched a little bit of the post-game conference before we got on here. He was trying to explain it as that we had a good two-play playbook, and he thought it was going to get past their defense. That was how his explanation was. Why you still would go for it, I don't understand.
I mean, the play sort of worked, but
it almost worked. Odell almost caught it, but just the idea of it in retrospect.
Yeah, it didn't really make sense.
Ultra's power rankings coming in here. Number 1, Rams. 2, Patriots. 3, Saints. 4, Chiefs. 5, Vikings. 6, Chargers. 7, Steelers. 8, Panthers. 9, Ravens. 10, Texans. Anything you got to say about that?
I got to look at it. I was mesmerized by this Twitter post. One sec.
Mesmerized. I think the Chiefs should still be, number, I don't know, that 3 spot I think should be. It's at 10:42 p.m. You got to scroll up a little bit. Texans at 10 is pretty interesting. They have won the last 4, so
I think the way the Chiefs play, you got to put them at 3, even as much as I like the Saints. Saints are at 4. I think Vikings or Chargers at 5 and 6. That's fine. That's personal preference. Steelers at 7, I think it's fine. Panthers at 8 is fine. They play the Ravens this week, so that will be determined this week. Ooh. Texans at 10, I don't think they're in the top 10.
They've been hot, but are they going to continue?
I think I would rather have the Redskins or let me look.
All right, while you think of that.
I think I'd rather have the Redskins, the Bears, Lions, or Packers, any of these teams.
I wouldn't say I don't think Packers are top 10 team.
Maybe the Bears. I think I would put the Redskins. They're 4-2. Give them some credit.
Yeah, that's a fair assumption. Robot Guy says if Eli wasn't so trash, the Falcons might have lost this game, but Eli is a dumpster fire.
That is true.
A couple of record predictions for the Falcons. Aiden says they're going 8-8 for the Falcons. Ultra is predicting 8-8 or 9-7, so no playoffs, I think, here. Robot Guy 8-8 as well. A Cowboys fan and a Patriots fan shitting on the Giants. Can't get much better. Yes, that is true. For deep-rooted connections there. Colonel Sander says this game was pathetic. Nothing but sacks, incomplete passes, and the worst play calling in the entire league except for maybe the Cardinals, who have fired Mike McCoy, who has had 2 jobs in the last 2 years. More than me. That's funny enough to me. Who else is here? The forehand man was never this bad. Yes, Peyton Manning was never this bad. I mean, even in his roughest of days, he still got it done. You know what I'm saying? Ghost Skittle says Pat Shurmur isn't a leader. What do you think about that, Mitch? You have defended Pat Shurmur quite a bit.
I just feel bad for Pat Shurmur. I think we need to give him a legitimate quarterback.
Got to give him a chance. You know what I'm saying?
Give him a chance.
So it's hard out here for a pimp. You can't just do everything like it is. I mean, heck, you never know.
He hasn't been spectacular by any means, but come on.
But my boy, Kyle Shanahan, can get C.J. Beathard close victories or close to wins. I don't know. Not yesterday. But, I mean, last week, that was a heck of a game. Thank you, Rams.
49ers are so rough.
Thank you, Rams defense, for 24 fantasy points. I really appreciate that one.
Kyle 5.
Kyle 5. Somebody just came in here. I've never seen them before and just said Eli's trash. And you know what? I got to agree with them.
You know what? Yeah, he's right.
No doubt about that, you know. Go Skittle. You're not eating dubs and go in the BLV league. You're 3-4. The guy that you played had 4 buys this week. If he had played anybody, he would have won. So I don't know about eating dubs, you know.
Who are you, Jameis?
He literally won by like 20. If he had started any one of those 4 people, the other guy, I mean, I ain't going to say anything. But by the way, thanks for the Kareem Hunt trade. 37.1 points.
Woo!
Woo-wee! And Jalen Richard is on my bench. He gets to start next week because Marshawn's hurt. So running back Larry is looking pretty decent right now. I'm not very mad about that. Yankee King, your boy Yankee King, Mitch. His weekly comment of the week is, well, I guess it would be weekly comment of the week.
He makes the most ridiculous trades on his Twitter that I've ever seen. It's like Giants, this guy, that guy, and this guy for 8 firsts and 2 seconds and 3 thirds. And I'm like, that never happened.
Giants need to blow up the roster. That is what he's saying. I mean, not the whole roster. There's some talent there. But they do. Let's see who. How do you feel about Gronk this year? I guess that's a question to you.
He's been a little bit underwhelming, but I think as long as they're winning, it doesn't really matter. And obviously he's going to miss 1 or 2 games a year. Should be back next week. I just think, I don't know. How do I answer this? I think early on in the season, it was rough for him because he was taking a lot of coverage because he didn't really have anyone else that Brady could rely on. And that hurt his statistical production. But honestly, I found that the Patriots really save Gronk for really important games. If they don't really need him to do much, and I know this sounds ridiculous, they kind of want to save his body a little bit during some of the games. And when they really need him, they'll go to him and they'll rely on him. But it just seems like over the past, even 2 to 3 years, they don't use him as much as they used to just because they don't really need to, or they don't really want to unless it's a big game or it's a playoff game or something. But I don't know. I just think he's been fighting through injuries, and that's always tough. And that's just the story of Gronk, man. He's just a big guy that gets beat up.
I will say, against the Steelers, he will have 13 catches for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's a big game. So, yeah, he'll show up for that one.
I mean, he always does. But last year, he killed them. It was ridiculous.
Oh, he was great in the playoffs last year, too. So, I mean, it's just the big games. And hopefully he can get a little bit healthier because you can tell he's a little hobbled out there. So,
yep.
We'll see.
Ghost Skittle responded to us by saying, F you. Good night. And then Alec, who asked the Gronk question, he said, by the way, glad you're a Patriots fan. I miss the Randy Moss and Wes Welker days.
Those were fun. Those were fun days. I wish we would have got one more year in there in 2008. We missed. I feel like they could have won the Super Bowl that year if Brady didn't get injured, but it is what it is.
Yep. And that's it for that section of the comments.
All right. Let's transition.
All right.
Okay. Should I do a new intro and just ignore everybody on the stream right now?
Sure, why not?
I'll do it sort of differently. Okay. All right, ready, everybody? Cut. Amari Cooper has been traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Dilly Vanilli's Dallas Cowboys. Amari Cooper is headed to the Cowboys. There was rumors, there was speculation about Amari Cooper potentially being traded. He wasn't getting along with John Gruden, not getting the targets from Derek Carr, very much struggling in Oakland. really over the past 2 years. I know he had the stats last year, but this year, not the stats for sure. And really just inconsistent from week to week. You never knew what you were going to get from him, but hopefully in a new situation, the Dallas Cowboys can make the most of it. But then we heard what it was for, Dilly Vanilli. They got Amari Cooper for not a second, not a third, not a fourth. Josh Gordon was traded for a fifth, which I'm sure we'll bring up. Amari Cooper went for a first-round pick, which was the equivalent of Brandon Cooks this past offseason. Dylan, you are the Dallas Cowboys fan. So how do you feel about Amari Cooper heading over to Dallas?
All right, well, I've had a little bit of time to absorb this because it happened about 2:30 Central, and it's now 11 o'clock. Remember when we were on stream a couple weeks ago, and this question was brought up as a rumor, and I said, I don't want Amari Cooper here for a first-round pick.
You did say that, and why did you say that?
Because the inconsistency of Amari Cooper was not worth the first-round pick. Okay? I'm going to go through a couple of positives and negatives that I see out of here. The obvious negative is we're giving up a first-round pick. If you're giving up a first-round pick for Amari Cooper, why didn't we go for a second-round pick to Earl Thomas, which is what the Seahawks wanted? And if we wanted to go for a receiver, why not go for Josh Gordon, like you brought up, who was given for a fifth-round pick? I think there's, I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys know math very much. I don't know if my team knows math, but a second or a fifth-round pick is a little bit farther back in the draft than a first. I just don't know if they know that, because those are two better talents than Amari Cooper right now. Josh Gordon has succeeded in the New England Patriots system, and he would have succeeded in the Dallas Cowboys system, and he's a great talent when he's healthy. Earl Thomas, this was before the injury, they wanted a second-round pick, would have gotten the job done and would have helped out our secondary. Amari Cooper has had so many games over the course of the last 2 seasons where he hasn't even gotten over 20 yards. 20. As a receiver, you think you would pick up more yards consistently. If you have one bad game, it happens. But if you consistently do that, how can I trust you in getting you for this kind of potential? I just don't see it in that aspect. But there are a couple of good things to see, in my opinion, from the Amari Cooper trade. First off, Amari Cooper's coming in on a bye week, which means he was already on a bye week from the Oakland last week. He's going to get another week to train with the Cowboys and get in the system, and then he's going to play Monday night against the Titans. We're going to see in prime time if he's worth getting, being in the system in game 1. Second thing, he's still pretty young. He's only 6 months older than Calvin Ridley, who was a first-round draft pick this year. So he's still got a lot of
24 years old.
24 years old. That's pretty young, all things considered, in this situation. I'm trying to get that stat there for the 20-yard comparison. Okay, here we go. Amari Cooper has recorded 20 or more yards in 4 of his last 10 games. More than 20 yards in 4 of his last 10. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Derek Carr will get you the ball enough to have more than 20 yards. I guarantee you that, even if he is struggling. But he's still got a lot of youth to him. 24 years old. Like I said, 6 months younger or older than Calvin Ridley. He still has talent. I've seen flashes of him. We saw what he could do in Alabama. We saw his first great season. And the biggest thing for me is that the Cowboys offense has always been, especially Jerry Jones, to the media, that we don't have a number 1 receiver. That we just don't have that guy to get us down the field, which A, that's a complete lie because we had Des Bryant. But B, you now don't have that excuse. You have Amari Cooper as your number 1 receiver, and we're really going to see if Dak can tell the world that he knows how to use a number 1 receiver, because that has been the biggest excuse. Cole Beasley's had great games, but we can't rely on him as the number 1 guy in Dallas. Amari Cooper is looked at as this guy since we gave up this much for him. A first-round pick is quite a bit. So I don't like that we gave up a first-round pick. I think it was way too much of a reach. But then again, I've still got to give him the opportunity to prove me wrong, because at the end of the day, if I'm just going to talk crap about it and not give it a chance, I'm not really helping out to the Dallas organization. So I have to give it a chance. I'm just very cautious of this scenario because we're 3-4, and we're giving up this kind of play where we could go get a first-round pick that's highly necessary to this team. That's my opinion on it.
All right. Well, for me, you look at Amari Cooper this year, he's had 2 games over 100 yards at the Denver Broncos and against the Cleveland Browns. In both of those games, he had 10 and 12 targets. For some reason in the other games, he had 3 targets in the first game where he had 1 catch for 9 yards against the Rams. The third game, 2 catches for 17 on 5 targets when they were still trying to get him in the offense. The fourth game, he had over 100 yards. The fifth game, 1 catch at 10 yards. Right after that fifth game, we saw sort of the rumors start that Amari Cooper could be on the trade block. John Gruden was thinking about trading him. The main things I've heard about Amari Cooper and the reason why the Raiders wanted to trade him was, one, the biggest reason, they feel like Amari Cooper is not committed to the Raiders and he's not committed to football, and they feel like he does not love the sport of football and he's not fully invested. The second reason is that they think he's overrated and he does not really get off press very well and is not great against physical corners at the line of scrimmage. So those were the 2 biggest things I heard about Amari Cooper and the 2 biggest flaws. Now, what do I think about those flaws? I think it has to be something said. Even the most talented of receivers, despite, even if they have down games, they always seem to bounce back. They always seem to get more targets, and they'll fight their way through adversity. And with Amari Cooper, it doesn't seem like he's willing to do that. Maybe he is a little bit mentally weak in terms of confidence level, just his belief in his ability. And the second thing, in terms of separation and getting off the line, I mean, I could definitely see it because he's had a lot of games throughout his career when he's not facing a mediocre to bad defense. He doesn't really do very well. When he plays good corners, he just seems to disappear. So I'm not sure. I always credited that because he's young. He's just developing. But he's 3 years into the league. I know he's still only 24. But there is concern there with that. Do I think that the Cowboys are getting a receiver worth a first-round pick? No. Do I think the Cowboys will get better at the receiver position because they have Amari Cooper? Yes. Was Amari Cooper worth a first-round pick? No. Because when you look at the past wide receiver trades, not a lot of receivers are traded for first-round picks. I mean, Brandon Cooks has just been traded basically for 2 first-round picks. He was traded last year to the Patriots for a first-round pick, and he was traded this year to the Rams for a first-round pick. Both were 20+. So the Cowboys, to make it near Brandon Cooks' value, would have to basically make it in the playoffs at some point and, make it to the playoffs and basically trade it for that. And I don't even think, Cooper has justified that he's as good or better than Brandon Cooks. I think we all think that Brandon Cooks is better than Amari Cooper, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just seems like when players, I know that this is a different situation, but Josh Gordon getting traded for a 5th-round pick, and we know the talent of Josh Gordon, despite all the issues, goes for a 5th. And we've seen receivers in the past go for 6th and 4ths. And there's not a lot of receivers we've seen go for 2nds even. Or, it does not really happen very often. So for a receiver of Amari Cooper, I understand he's young, but to go for a first-round pick, I think overall the Raiders won the trade. But that's not to say that Amari Cooper couldn't turn his career around, because we have seen the production. That's not to say that the Cowboys did not get better, because they did get better. In this trade, the Cowboys do get a receiver with legitimate downfield speed that will open up the offense a little bit. Yeah, he'll probably be inconsistent, but at least he'll be a weapon that they can use. He does not have the greatest hands. He's an okay route runner. He does have good athleticism. He's fast. He's quick. He can get open in that way. But it's going to be interesting, because I would think if Cooper was being traded to the Saints or the Rams or the Patriots or one of the elite offenses in the NFL, I'd say, yes, Amari Cooper is going to succeed. He's going to bounce back in his NFL career. But because the Cowboys don't have the most elaborate offense, because they don't have great coaching, I don't know if Amari Cooper is really going to be able to succeed more than he has in Oakland. So it's a very interesting situation. The Cowboys are going for it, that's for sure. And again, you always have to bring up that first-round picks are never guaranteed themselves. You never know what you're going to get in a first-round pick. It sounds sexy, but you never truly know what you're going to get there. So it's very interesting trade. It's interesting that he, at 21 and 22 years old, were able to get 1,000-yard seasons with the Raiders and looking like a promising young receiver. And all of a sudden, these last 2 years has dropped off at the age of 23 and 24 when you really think he was going to really break through. Dylan, I don't know. What do you think he has to perform to? Like, what level do you think he needs to perform to? And what level do you think the team needs to perform to for you to get really to win this trade and to have success with Amari Cooper?
Well, I'm just frustrated with this organization as a whole. I mean, it just baffles my mind why they think this is the right decision going forward with the first round expectations. But if we're looking at what the stats need to be put in,
they clearly needed a receiver.
They did, but they've also shown that when they get somebody that they haven't produced. We got Allen Hurns for a 2-year contract, and he's had like 12 catches the entire season. The production has not been there on a consistent basis, even when we sign a guy. For me, we're going to be halfway through the year, so 9 games he's going to have throughout the course of the season. He just has to be consistent. I mean, even if we get 1 or 2 100-yard receiving games, I just need to see something where he can be, a 5 catches for 80.
You would have to think that Cooper needs to be 1,000-yard receiver, if not this year, next year, for this to be a successful trade. No,
for next year, yeah. I mean, he's not going to do it in 9 games.
He has to be a pretty good player for a couple of years at least.
The thing is that it feels like this should be a long-term trade, but it just feels so short-sighted as well. It's like, okay, here we go. The Cowboys lost 3-4, and now they're focused on having to give Dak another opportunity when he's had opportunities. This team, they don't have the greatest receiving core, but they've signed guys, they've made plays, they got the players necessary, and yet it just hasn't been consistent. This team has not been consistent. You go 40 points one week and 17 the next. And now whether that's the defense, whatever, but they're not making the right plays. Amari Cooper can make the right plays, but he's got to be more consistent. Right now, if I had to grade this as a Cowboys fan, this trade is a 4. I'm not very excited about it. Yeah, no, it's low because even if he was giving up for a 4th, even, I'm like, okay, you didn't give up that much.
Yeah, I would have thought he would have got traded for like a 3rd or a 4th.
Like I'm okay with the fact that you.
When I saw first, I was genuinely shocked.
Like, how much we have to get, let's say the Cowboys tank, right? Let's say they don't do very well. Not tank, but they lose quite a bit of games. They go 10 losses. Not saying that's going to happen, but just follow with me. That's going to get them 8th, 9th position, maybe somewhere around there. The Raiders are going to use 3 first-round picks this year. Okay, so you've just given them that opportunity. If we had that first-round pick, you could get a star receiver then that you can, trust and rely on, or at least have the potential for. You could get somebody that you really need elsewhere. It's a huge risk in the first round. I know you said that first-round players aren't always guaranteed, but just the idea that you could have somebody like that, it's crazy. So I'm giving this a 4 right now. I'm going to give it a chance, and we'll be on here in 2 weeks to see if he does anything against the Titans. That will be his first matchup on Monday Night Football. But until that point, I just can't give that a passing grade right now.
All right, so that's our thoughts on Amari Cooper. We'll see how it works out in Dallas. Switching over to another topic, another hot topic in the NFL. Patrick Peterson. He's on the block.
He's on the block. He's desperately wanting a trade.
It sounds like he is desperate. It sounds like he wants the F out of there. Mm-hmm. And his cousin, Brian McFadden, also former NFL corner, had stated that his ideal situation, landing spot would be the New Orleans Saints. Now, apparently, that there have been 3 teams that have been publicly trying, or not publicly, but publicly reportedly trying to get Patrick Peterson. And those teams reported were the New Orleans Saints, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the New England Patriots. Now, all three of these teams have obviously goals, aspirations to getting to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. The Eagles being the least likely to do so based on their record. But I think we've brought this up in the past. There are quite a few teams in the NFL that I think could really use Patrick Peterson, given the landscape in the NFL right now for a lack of NFL talent on defenses and for a lack of defense in the NFL. And for really a lot of contenders, they could use a talented corner like Patrick Peterson. I think those three specifically make a lot of sense. Dylan, what are your thoughts so far on the rumors of Patrick Peterson? Do you think a deal is going to get done? Do you think this is likely? Or do you think that this is just a bunch of hogwash?
Well, the Cardinals are stating that they really don't want to trade him, which they're kind of stuck in that situation where it's like, wow, like this sucks. We're going to have to give up this guy because he really wants to get out because they're not very good. All three teams are very good options to go. I mean, the Eagles right now are struggling, but in terms of going for a cornerback role, all three of them definitely could use a little bit of help there. The reason why I'm leaning to the Saints in getting Patrick Peterson is because he did play at LSU. He has experience in that area. You know, he did play in Louisiana. So I think maybe that's a little bit of why he wants to go there, as he played college there for a while. And, yeah, I mean, he's still a great cornerback. He's been to the Pro Bowl 7 times since he got in the league. Every single year he's been a Pro Bowler. And you know, we talked about last year his play wasn't as great, but this year
I feel like this year he's played better than last year.
Yeah, he's definitely, because we were laughing that he was in the top 100 last year. I think right now you could still put him in that. You could put him in that top 100. We wouldn't be mad about it. It just depends on the ranking.
Especially with the lack of great corners in the league right now. It just seems like there's not a lot of great play at that position right now. And to have a Patrick Peterson or to acquire one would be huge for any team. And
for the Saints, you know, their defense has not been very good. They've struggled. They've given up a lot of points. Their secondary has not been as great as we want them to be. Lattimore had an injury, but he's still, you know, been half and half. With the Patriots, always a nice use for him. I bet Patrick Peterson would definitely be happy with the Patriots going there. But if anything else, I think this is an interesting trade. The Cardinals might not want it to happen, but they might have to do it. I don't know. It just seems like one of the situations that it might have to happen. So if I was going to pick a likely destination, I'm going with the Saints on this one.
I think I would agree with you there. I think the most likely scenario would be the Saints, just because he has basically said he wants to go there. And I think the Saints are a team that, of course, you remember they made that trade for Marcus Davenport in the first round. They've been aggressive in pursuing a Super Bowl. So I think that's something that's interesting in that they would probably go out there and make an aggressive trade for this guy. He's not exactly cheap. I'm just looking up his contract right now. Of course, he's 28 years old. He's been 8 years in the league. He signed a 5-year deal a couple years ago. He has quite a few years left. He has basically this remaining this year, 2019 and 2020 on his current deal. And basically in the next 3 years, he is making 11 million, 11 million, 12 million. So he makes quite a bit of money. I know right now from a Patriot point of view that the Patriots have about like 6 million in cap, but they said that they could, like, the people that do the cap or whatever that tweet and the beat writers said that they could basically configure a way to get that extra money to trade for him. So it is a possibility. I think the Saints are in a similar boat where they don't have a ton of money as well, but I'm sure they could find a way to do that as well. As for the Eagles, I think, you know, the Eagles are definitely a team that need corners. They really are. That's their worst position on their team, arguably, right now. Mills has been bad. Darby, I don't think, has been a success for them. He hasn't been awful. And really, Sidney Jones hasn't been that great either. So they're definitely looking for a player at that position. For the Saints, Lattimore's been a little bit better recently, but definitely not been as good as his rookie season. And losing Patrick Robinson to injury was a big injury for them. And they really don't have a great second corner there. So I feel like if they added Patrick Peterson, that might really, really help their defense. Just give a little bit more balance to each side of the field with Lattimore and Peterson. For the Patriots, I think it would be very compelling because we know what the Patriots have done with 2 good corners in the past. And I think it would really help their defense, even though I feel like their corner play has been one of the better parts of their defense this year. I really feel that the Patriots would rather upgrade at like linebacker or something like that. But it's interesting because the Patriots did try and basically move around some salary cap for Stephon Gilmore's contract this year into next couple of years in guaranteed money so that they could probably trade for someone at the trade deadline. Whether that's Patrick Peterson or not, it will be interesting. And I think there's a few other teams that haven't been discussed that I feel like should go after Patrick Peterson. I think the Steelers are one of them. I think the Texans are another one. Tyrann Mathieu was a teammate of his. I think that makes a lot of sense. The Steelers, of course, needing corners in general.
Definitely.
I think the Chiefs, especially if the Patriots are in the conversation, they should at least try and get in that conversation because we know how bad their corner play has been and their secondary in general.
Scandrick's.
Sorry?
I said Scandrick's garbage.
Scandrick is garbage. I think I've brought up the Panthers. The Panthers don't usually make bold trades like that, but they could definitely use him. And I think if they did get Patrick Peterson, it would catapult them into, I think, elite team area because I think they really have struggled at that position. And I think that's overall it. I think if Patrick Peterson is going to be traded, it's going to be to a team that knows they're going to make the playoffs and it's a team that thinks that they can go all the way or at least make a run for it at the Super Bowl. Any other comments on the Patrick Peterson situation, Dylan?
Either team. Here's the thing: any team that's going to get him is going to win. Like they're going to get the benefit of this deal. It's like when Kyrie Irving got traded to the Celtics; they won that trade. And in this scenario, you're getting a guy like Patrick Peterson that's definitely going to help out your defense. A lot of the teams that we talked about, maybe minus. I guess, but most of the teams we talked about really do need that quarterback help. They would be benefited from having a guy like Patrick Peterson. And it'll be interesting to see if it gets it done because right now we got about 8 days until that happens. So I'm interested to see if a deal gets done. But my prediction's still the Saints, but a lot of teams could be out there for it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to also see what he goes for, whether it's a second or a third and a fourth or something like that, because he does carry a heavy contract as we discussed, and he is nearing his 30s. So it'll be interesting. But like Dylan said, you're likely not going to get like a first round pick or anything like that for him, plus that contract. So it's likely that the team that gets him is going to win the trade. But the Cardinals are looking to rebuild. They're in that real stage of their franchise right now. And Patrick Peterson is looking to win. So he needs to go somewhere where he can win. And if the Cardinals do him a solid, unlike Fitzgerald a few years back, then that would really be big for Patrick Peterson's career. We'll see if anybody gets him and lands him at the trade deadline, but the trade deadline is definitely going to be really interesting. So we'll see where Patrick Peterson ends up.
Yep.
Dylan, let's finish this up with some comments, and then we'll peace out.
All right, in terms of this video here, Rob says on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rank the Amari Cooper trade? He ranks at a 5. I would give my ranking. What do you put the number on?
I think I would go with you like a 4.
Okay. Ultra again agrees with the 4 or 5 ranking. Alex says Cooper was a top 5 wide receiver before his injury. I don't think they should have given up a first round pick though. I don't know if he was a top 5 receiver. He definitely has showed a lot of potential that first year. We really did like him in 2016 when he bounced off, but just been kind of inconsistent. People were questioning whether or not he fits in this Dallas Cowboys offense with Dak Prescott.
It's going to be interesting. A lot of pressure now that Cooper is there is going to be on Dak, even though I don't know if it will be, it's fair or not. I feel like the first guy that would be gone would be the OC. The second guy that would be gone, that would be Garrett. I think Dak's going to stick around there the longest out of those 3 people. So like they're going to give Dak as long as possible to prove himself with this current team, and even probably with a new head coach, more so than him get going for some new quarterback.
Jason Garrett will stay there until Jerry Jones dies, and I'm just going to be convinced until that happens. I'm sorry, like he could be the worst coach. I mean, he already is, but he could be so much worse, and they just won't do anything. So I mean, it is what it is. But I think Dak, like you said, is probably going to get the longest opportunity there. Ultra's saying that Amari won't be Calvin Ridley. I'm not saying he is out Calvin Ridley. I'm just saying the age-wise, and he's already got a little bit of experience, could help him out here. Robot says it's a win for the Raiders. First round for inconsistent Cooper. That's a pretty good deal. Let's see. Rob says that he thinks Dak is the problem in Dallas. He thinks Carr should be the next or is going to be the next person to be traded. What do you think about that? Carr traded?
I don't think Carr will be traded till at least the offseason, but I could see him getting traded.
The reason I don't think he'll be traded is because Gruden loves him. And I don't know if that's going to be like a head management type of deal where they're like, hey, we got to trade this guy. You know, Gruden might fight for that a lot. So, like you said, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in the offseason. But I would not place my bets on happening in 8 days. This is a random question, but it's kind of just in there. Should I trade Carlos Hyde for Isaiah Crowell PPR?
Wow.
That is a tough question.
Well, I've been saying this to everybody with the Carlos Hyde question is, can we wait a little bit for Leonard Fournette?
Yeah.
What's going on with Leonard Fournette? Because if Carlos Hyde's the starting running back for Jacksonville, I feel like I'd rather have him than Isaiah Crowell.
Leonard Fournette's been such a liability at this point. Like,
it's tough. It's tough.
You know what I'm saying? And until this losing game streak that they've been going on, it was like Leonard Fournette doesn't need to be there because they would still win games. But I think you got to really look at what the report says for the injury report. Like, do you trust it? Do you think he's going to be out for a few more weeks? Because Isaiah Crowell is going to be the number one guy there. There's no question about that in New York. So
yeah.
So what do you think consistently? What consistency I should say?
Crowell is definitely safer. You're taking a chance with Hyde.
Yeah.
It depends on your roster. If you're like stashing Hyde to see if you can get something great out of him, but you don't really need him on your roster, if you need a running back to play, then trade for Crowell.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because he's saying, should I trade Carl? He has Carlos Hyde. He wants to get Isaiah Crowell. Okay.
Yeah. So, it depends on your roster construction. If you have good running backs already and you have those players on your bench, then keep Hyde. But if you need to play a player, then play Crowell. Like, get Crowell and play him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would agree. And Robot Guy says the Pats need more pass rushers than cornerbacks. They're good against the run, but they can't get to the quarterback to save their lives. And their corner play has been good in terms of your.
I would agree. I think I'd love Patrick Peterson, but I'd rather have a pass rusher or a linebacker at the equal level. Like if a linebacker all of a sudden came available or a DN came available, those are also harder players to get and trade for. I feel like corners get traded more often, but I don't know. We'll see. If I think Patrick Peterson would make the defense better too. So like,
hey, hold on. God, I got to sneeze. That hurt. It just kind of depends on I think what they're going to give up for. You know, like what would need to happen in order for Patrick Peterson. If the deal's too much, don't worry about it. But if it's like we get a bargain here, go for it. No, it's not going to hurt your team.
Also, to the Chris Harris thing, I don't know if Chris Harris is on the block. Is he?
I don't think so. I mean, Denver's not that he's in a bad situation, but I don't think so.
I think it's worth a call, and I don't think he makes much money.
Jimmy says thanks for the input. No problem.
No problem. I think we should wrap it up.
I think that is it. That is it.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this recap. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more Bottom Line View. We will be releasing those Amari Cooper, Patrick Peterson little bits as well as separate videos. So go support those when they come out. All right, guys. Thanks. Follow us on social media. The Bottom Line View on Instagram. You can find the description the link in the description, as well as the Twitter information in the description as well. All right, Mitch and Dilly Vanilli. Deuces.